"You're not a good fit anymore, Logan." That's what Derek Colburn told me on a Tuesday morning, standing in front of the steel skeleton of Tower B like he was offering life advice, not ending a man's career. I didn't say a word. Just stared at him until he shifted uncomfortably and muttered something about misaligned priorities. What he meant was, I cared more about the safety of my crew than his precious deadline. "My name's Logan Barrett. I'm 46, lead site foreman with Ironcrest Developments, or I was until that morning. For over 2 decades I've lived and breathed construction. Woke up before dawn, boots on gravel, radio crackling in my vest. I was the guy who made sure every man under my command made it home at the end of the day with all 10 fingers and no one's got a call about a fall that never should have happened. They hired me 5 years ago when Ironcrest had blood on its name, 2 deaths, a dozen injuries, lawsuits piling up like plywood in the back of a storage trailer. I cleaned it up. I rewrote the safety protocols from the ground up. Accident rate dropped to near zero. I thought that meant something. Then came Derek. Shiny teeth, East Coast accent, tailored jacket that never saw a minute of labor. Efficiency expert, they called him. Hired from New York to streamline operations. From day one, he treated me like a fossil. Talked fast, smiled fake, and started cutting corners like it was policy. "You don't need daily inspections if the crew's experienced," he said one morning, skipping past a half-covered trench. "Railings just slow us down." When I pushed back, he smiled and said, "Logan, this is a new era. You're either on board or in the way." I guess I was in the way. They fired me the day after I shut down an entire section because the lift shaft had no guardrails. Said I was impeding progress. Just like that. No warning, no write-up, no handshake. I walked off site with my hard hat in one hand and my spine intact. But I didn't go quietly. I had something they didn't count on: receipts. Photos, reports, emails, every ignored complaint, all of it backed up on a drive no one knew I had. And I had time. What Derek didn't realize was, he didn't just fire a foreman. He started a war. The night after I was fired, I sat in my truck outside the old Ironcrest site like a ghost revisiting his own grave. My badge wouldn't get me past the security gate anymore, but that didn't matter. I wasn't there to go in. I was there to remember exactly what was at stake. That site, that skeleton of steel and glass, was a death trap in disguise. And I had the proof. Over the past 6 months, I documented everything. At first, I'd sent it up the chain, politely, formally. "A missing railing here. Improper electrical labeling there." But after getting stonewalled, I started saving copies. Screenshots of safety violations. Photos with timestamps. Emails ignored. I even recorded a conversation where Derek laughed and said, "We say the right things when inspectors are around. The rest is just noise." I backed everything up on a private drive I kept in my garage. My wife used to joke I was paranoid. But now that paranoia was the only reason I had leverage. The next morning, I filed a formal complaint with OSHA. I packaged everything: photos, correspondence, audio clips, and submitted it anonymously. Didn't want them brushing it off as a disgruntled ex-employee's rant. Then I went quiet. Days passed. Nothing. Not a single word from OSHA. But I wasn't surprised. Ironcrest had money. Friends in the right places. Derek was a talker, knew how to shake hands and grease wheels. That same week, I started hearing rumors. Lewis, a former crane operator I used to supervise, called me from a burner phone. Said Ironcrest had started doing cosmetic makeovers on all active sites. Adding temporary safety railings. Painting over rusted beams. Even training the green hats how to answer inspector questions like actors rehearsing for a play. And Derek? He was already telling people I'd been let go for falsifying timesheets. Said I tried to cover up a billing discrepancy. Then came worse, accusations that I'd stolen proprietary documents. I laughed when I first heard it until it hit me just how far they were willing to go. That night, I sat in the dark, drive in one hand, bourbon in the other, wondering, how do you take down a man who's willing to burn the whole place down just to keep his seat warm? Then I got a text from Kevin, another guy I used to work with. "Need to talk. Saw something. Meet me tomorrow." Not over the phone. The war had officially begun. Kevin met me in the back lot of a gas station just outside Boulder. He looked over his shoulder twice before getting out of his truck. "You sure no one followed you?" he asked, only half joking. "Kevin," I said, "this ain't a spy movie." "But yeah, I'm sure." He got in my passenger seat and handed me a flash drive. "Saw this on Derek's laptop. Wasn't supposed to." He left it open during a conference call and stepped out. I took a screenshot, copied what I could. "You're not crazy, man. They're framing you." I plugged it into my laptop right there. The file was a forwarded internal email chain between Derek and Ironcrest's CEO Gregory Vaughn. Black and white. Safety is only on paper. Completion by October is the priority. Successful scheme will be applied company-wide. I read it 3 times. This is real. I asked, even though I already knew. Kevin nodded. And they're making people sign NDAs, threatening to blacklist anyone who talks. Louis, Josh, even Carmen, they're scared. But they're with you, Logan. Quietly. I leaned back, exhaling slow. This wasn't just Derek going rogue. This was policy. Top down. You still have the originals of everything you sent to OSHA? Kevin asked. Yeah, but that was the clean version. Just enough to rattle the cage. This, I said, lifting the flash drive, this is the bullet. Kevin gave a hollow chuckle. So what now? Now I needed allies. Later that night, I dug through old contacts and found a name I hadn't thought of in years, Troy Hanley. Former foreman out of Seattle. Heard he got fired after a worker fell from a second-floor scaffolding. The fall was fatal. They said Troy signed off on the inspections. But rumor was his signature was forged. I found him working nights at a lumber yard outside Tacoma. I called, told him who I was. There was a long silence on the line. Then he said, "They got you too, huh?" I said, "Not yet. But I plan to return the favor." Troy Hanley looked older than I remembered and more tired. We met halfway between Boulder and Tacoma in a dusty diner off I-84. He ordered coffee and nothing else. I brought a folder. He brought silence. They fired me the day after a guy named Carlos fell. Said I signed off on the inspection. I didn't. He sipped the bitter brew. I'd flagged that same railing twice. No response. The day after the funeral, I was gone. They forged your signature? I asked. He nodded. Used an old report, cut and pasted it. But I can prove it wasn't mine. Timestamps, formatting, hell, they didn't even spell my middle name right. I handed him a printout of the email Kevin pulled off Derek's laptop. He read it slowly, jaw tightening with every line. Completion over safety, he muttered. So it wasn't just my site. They're doing this everywhere. They've got a system, I said. One they think no one will question because the people they burn never get back up. Troy looked up at me, and for the first time that night, I saw something in his eyes, fire. What do you need? He asked. I need your story. Records, files, anything. I've got my own. But if we can show this is bigger than one foreman or one project. He nodded. You've got it. I've kept everything. By the end of the week, we had it all, his termination letter, his emails to HR that were never answered, photos of the faulty scaffold, witness statements from a junior engineer who quit after Carlos's death. I compiled it with my own files. Over 200 pages of documented negligence, cover-ups, and systemic violations. We weren't just going to file a complaint. We were going to drop a hammer. And to do that, I called in a name no one in construction ever wants to hear. The Office of Inspector General, Department of Labor. Their agent picked up on the second ring. Special Agent Carmen Alvarez, Labor OG. How can I help? I gave her one sentence. I have evidence of a company-wide scheme risking the lives of hundreds of construction workers, sanctioned by corporate leadership. She paused. Go on. Agent Carmen Alvarez didn't waste time with small talk. We met in a quiet federal office building in Denver, plain concrete walls and a single metal desk between us. I laid everything out, the forged signatures, the falsified reports, the photos, the emails, the deaths. Troy backed every word with his own documents. Alvarez didn't blink once. When we finished, she leaned forward and said, "Let me be very clear, if even half of what you're saying holds up, this isn't just a labor violation. It's a criminal conspiracy." Good, I said. Because they've been playing this game across state lines, across sites, and across lives. Alvarez took the drive. We don't chase ghosts, Mr. Barrett. We follow paper. And you've got a trail here. She paused, eyes narrowing. But understand something, once we start, there's no turning back. These people will fight dirty. They'll bury evidence. They'll throw others under the bus. I smiled. Let 'em try. By the end of the week, the case was officially open. The Office of the Inspector General launched a covert investigation. No contact with Ironcrest. No warnings. No interviews. Just surveillance, subpoenas, and silence. Then Derek slipped. A week later, Louis, one of my old crew, messaged me through encrypted chat. He'd overheard Derek in a closed-door meeting, furious over a data breach. Apparently, someone inside the company had tipped off the feds and Derek was scrambling. They're shredding stuff, Louis wrote. Pulling computers. Locking people out. Vaughn called in the legal team from Chicago. Panic mode. I called Alvarez. They're covering their tracks. We expected that, she said. which is why we already pulled their server backups last week. Quietly. That same night, I received an anonymous message. It was a scan of an internal memo and signed but real, a directive from Gregory Vaughn to limit exposure and contain Barrett's narrative. They weren't just trying to protect their reputation anymore. They were trying to erase me. And if they wanted war, they just made a tactical error. Because I don't bluff. It was around 2 a.m. when I woke up to the sound of tires crunching outside my house. I peeked through the blinds. Black SUV. No plates. Engine still running. Whoever was inside didn't get out, just sat there, windows dark. Watching. I didn't panic. I didn't call the cops. I just grabbed my phone, took a few photos, then stepped outside onto the porch with a cup of coffee in my hand and my Glock tucked into the back of my jeans. The SUV peeled off. Message received. The next morning, I emailed the photos to Alvarez. You think they're trying to scare me? I asked. Her reply came in less than a minute. They're trying to intimidate a federal witness. That's a mistake. That same day, the labor OIG made their move. Quiet subpoenas went out. Subcontractors. Safety inspectors. Even lower-level HR reps, the people Vaughn and Derek probably thought were too insignificant to matter. They weren't. Turns out you push people hard enough, long enough, they start remembering things. Things they buried to protect their jobs. Things like bribed inspectors. Expired permits. One even came forward with a USB full of old timesheets, the kind that showed phantom labor hours and unauthorized overtime cut from payroll. It was all unraveling. But Ironcrest didn't back down. They went full-on scorched earth. I got served with a cease and desist letter claiming I'd violated a non-disclosure agreement I never signed. A slander threat. Then came the smear campaign, online articles quietly published through third-party blogs accusing me of mental instability, financial issues, even drug use. They used my divorce from 3 years ago like it was ammunition. Kevin messaged me furious. They're dragging your name through the mud. Let them, I said. I've already climbed out of worse. But I'll admit it got to me. That night, I sat in my garage, flipping through old project binders, touching each with the back of my hand like a priest checking for signs of life. 2 decades of my work. My integrity. And now, my legacy was being rewritten by cowards in corner offices. Until I found it, a signed internal memo from 5 years ago with Gregory Vaughn's name in bold print. It authorized my safety overhaul project. With one line circled in blue pen. Foreman Logan Barrett granted final say in site-level hazard assessments. Final say. That memo made my shutdown of the lift shaft not just defensible but mandatory. If they were going to try and erase me from the record, they'd better bring a bigger eraser. Because the man they tried to silence had just found his voice. The following week, the house of cards started to shake. Alvarez called me on a secure line. We got an affidavit from a former internal auditor. Anonymous for now, but damning. What kind of damning? I asked. She reviewed safety budgets. Said money allocated for inspections, equipment, compliance. It never reached the sites. It was rerouted through dummy contracts. Guess where it ended up? Ironcrest's executive bonuses? She chuckled darkly. Bingo. Meanwhile, Derek wasn't taking this quietly. I heard through Josh, another old crew member, that Derek was showing up to sites in person now. Barking orders, rewriting logs, making people work without documentation. He was getting sloppy. That corporate polish was starting to crack. Then it happened. A 16-foot fall on Tower C. One of the temp workers, no harness, no anchor point, nothing. Just a clipboard, a hard hat, and gravity. He lived barely. Compound fracture. Head trauma. I saw the cell phone video. His screams echoed off the steel frame like a goddamn siren. Ironcrest called it a freak accident. But I saw the photo Josh sent me, no guardrails. Same corner I flagged in my last report. They hadn't fixed a damn thing. And this time it was all over the news. For the first time, the public started asking questions. The story broke wide in the Denver Post. Worker hospitalized after fall at Ironcrest's Boulder project. Safety history under scrutiny. The article quoted past lawsuits, named Vaughn, and cited anonymous sources inside the company. They didn't say my name, but I was the source. That's when the calls started again. Only this time they weren't threats. They were job offers. 3 different construction firms. One wanted me to come on as Director of Site Integrity. Another offered a VP of Compliance title. All 6-figure salaries. I ignored them. I wasn't done. That night, I got a call from Alvarez. Her tone was different. Troy's deposition just locked in, she said. We're filing for warrants. You've got about 10 days before this thing goes public and explodes. I stared out my window at the dark silhouette of Tower B. Cold steel, red lights blinking through fog. Still standing. But not for long. 10 days. That's how long they had left to lie, to cover, to twist. And how long I had to make sure the fall wasn't just loud. It was permanent. 10 days. That's what Alvarez gave me. 10 days before the feds knocked on Ironcrest's front door with search warrants and handcuffs. 10 days for Derek and Vaughn to sleep in their corner office beds. Unaware the clock was ticking like a bomb with a smirk. I didn't waste a second. First, I reached out to every former Ironcrest worker I trusted. Guys who got pushed out, blackballed, or quietly let go. Kevin helped me organize a secure group chat, off the grid, encrypted. Within 48 hours, we had 12 people ready to give statements. One of them, a site inspector named Marla, sent me something unexpected. A video. She'd recorded Derek during a safety walkthrough 6 months ago. In it, he literally said, "Skip the checklist. Just sign it. We're weeks behind and no one actually reads this crap." You could see his face, hear the tone. That clip alone was a nail in his career's coffin. And then there was the email from Vaughn, the one buried in Ironcrest's project planning archives, obtained by a whistleblower from IT. It laid out the entire strategy. Reduce site inspection costs by 30%, reclassify safety supervisors as site advisors to avoid liability, and shift compliance language to best effort standards. Vaughn signed it personally. Ironcrest had put profit over people so many times, it became standard operating procedure. I gave it all to Alvarez. She didn't even try to hide the satisfaction in her voice. "We've got them, Logan. CEO, operations manager, 2 division heads. This isn't just a safety scandal. It's criminal negligence. Fraud. Conspiracy." Then she paused. "But I have to ask, are you prepared for the blowback? They've already dragged my name," I said. "What more can they take?" Her voice hardened. "Your legacy. They'll try to spin this. Make you the disgruntled ex-claim you were out for revenge." I laughed. But it wasn't warm. "They're not wrong. I am out for revenge. But mine comes with facts." She didn't respond right away. Then good, because the warrants are scheduled. 10 days from today, federal agents will raid Ironcrest's Boulder site, corporate office, and Vaughn's home. If there's anything else you're sitting on, now's the time. I opened a file on my desk. My final piece. It was a memo Vaughn signed the week he hired Derek. Buried inside it was the line, "Recommend Colburn for Boulder project due to his aggressive completion record. Safety culture not a concern." They knew exactly what he was, and they sent him anyway. I emailed it to Alvarez with a subject line that said it all. "Last match in the book. Light it." Day 10 came like a sunrise soaked in gasoline. I didn't sleep the night before. Neither did half of Boulder's skyline. The Ironcrest project lit up early. Crews already on scaffolds. Equipment moving like it was any other Tuesday. But it wasn't. At 6:14 a.m., black SUVs pulled up to the site gates. No lights. No sirens. Just federal agents in dark windbreakers with the seal of the Department of Labor's OIG stamped across their backs. They moved with precision like they'd done this before. Because they had. I wasn't there in person, but I didn't need to be. I got the call from Alvarez at 6:21 a.m. "It's done," she said. "Site's locked. Offices are sealed. Vaughn and Colburn are in separate rooms. Phones confiscated. Devices imaged. HR's already squealing." I let out a long breath. My hands were trembling. Not from nerves, but from release. "What did Derek say?" I asked. She paused, then gave a half laugh. Tried to act shocked. Claimed he was the scapegoat. Said all decisions were authorized from above. And Vaughn? Silent. "But we've got enough. Between the budget documents, the inspector testimonies, and your records, they'll never work in this industry again." By noon, every major local news outlet was running the story. Breaking: federal agents raid Ironcrest developments over safety violations and fraud allegations. Vaughn's mugshot hit the Denver Gazette's site before sunset. Derek's followed an hour later. 3 senior execs placed on administrative leave. Federal investigation announced. Whistleblower protections extended. The Boulder site? Shut down indefinitely. All permits frozen. Workers sent home. Confused, frustrated, but alive. I drove past the site that night. Empty cranes. Silent loaders. Still air. I rolled my window down and sat for a while, just listening. No hammers. No shouts. No screaming metal. No ambulance sirens. Just quiet. Then my phone buzzed. It was Kevin. "You did it, man." I replied, "We did it." But the truth was, this wasn't just about one victory. This was a reckoning. And the war wasn't over just yet. 3 days after the raid, I got a knock on my door. Not law enforcement. Not press. A man in a gray suit, shiny shoes, and a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Mr. Barrett?" he asked, holding out a business card like it was an olive branch. "I represent Ironcrest's legal team. I'd like to speak with you off the record." I didn't take the card. "You're about 5 years too late," I said. He kept smiling. "No hostility here. My clients are reevaluating their position. They'd like to extend a private settlement offer. Confidentiality included, of course." I crossed my arms. So after they lied, endangered lives, slandered me, now they want to buy my silence? "We understand emotions are high," he said, "but there's an opportunity here to resolve this without further damage. For all parties." There it was. The real reason they sent him. Not to make peace, but to clean up the blood before more cameras arrived. "How much?" I asked just to hear it. He cleared his throat. "Mid-6 figures. NDA. You retract all public claims, and we agree not to pursue legal action for breach of company protocol." I actually laughed. "Let me be clear," I said, stepping closer. "You people cost a man his life. You tried to bury me, forge my signature, ruin my name. You don't get to make this go away with hush money." He flinched just slightly. "You're making a mistake, Mr. Barrett." "No," I said. "Your mistake was thinking I was for sale." He left without another word. I watched him drive off, disappearing behind a line of gray buildings like a ghost too embarrassed to haunt the place. The next morning, Alvarez called. "They tried to bribe you?" she asked, already writing it down. "Yep." "Good. Another charge." Later that day, I got a call from Northbridge United Developments, a major firm with a spotless safety record. I hadn't applied. Someone forwarded them my file. The man on the line was calm, respectful. "We've been following the case," he said. "We're expanding in Colorado. We want to offer you something. A position that's never been more necessary in our field." I waited. "We want you as director of site safety. Full control. No shortcuts. No politics. Just results. You set the standard. We follow it." I didn't answer right away, because after all that time fighting, someone finally saw me for what I truly was. Not a relic. A reset. I took the job. Northbridge United wasn't just another construction giant. They were everything Ironcrest pretended to be. Transparent. Disciplined. Accountable. Their CO flew out to Boulder to shake my hand in person. No red tape, no vague promises. Just a clear mandate. Build a culture that protects the people who build for us. It hit me harder than I expected. After all the lies, all the cover-ups, someone finally said the quiet part out loud. That workers matter more than profits. That safety isn't just a legal checkbox. It's a promise. Within the first 2 weeks, I brought Kevin, Josh, and Lewis onto my team. Not just as payback, but because they'd stood with me when it counted. Troy came on as a remote advisor, helping us draft new safety protocols that other firms were already asking to license. But Ironcrest wasn't done bleeding. The Department of Labor issued formal charges against the company. Civil suits followed. OSHA released a report naming systemic violations dating back years. Intentional disregard for workplace safety with clear executive approval. Vaughn was charged with criminal negligence and wire fraud. Derek was hit with obstruction of justice, falsification of documents, and conspiracy to defraud federal agencies. The kicker? The Department of Transportation revoked Ironcrest's right to bid on public infrastructure projects for the next 10 years. 10 years. That's a death sentence in this industry. Vaughn tried to pivot, held a press conference where he blamed mid-level management errors and communication breakdowns. Didn't work. The media already had the real story, the kind built on evidence, not spin. And me? I stayed quiet, because I didn't need a camera in my face or a headline with my name. I had something better: control over the future. Over the blueprint of how things should have always been. One afternoon, I walked the perimeter of our new project. Ground hadn't broken yet, but the survey flags were staked, the permits clean, the checklists already printed. The wind cut sharp across the field, but I didn't mind. A young laborer passed me, maybe 21, nervous. "Hey, sir, are you with management?" I nodded. "I am. Name's Logan." He straightened up. "I just wanted to say, this place feels different." That stopped me. "Different how?" I asked. He shrugged. "I dunno. Like, I don't feel like I'm being rushed into a grave." That hit me right in the gut. Because that's what it had been for so long. A race between deadlines and death. But not anymore. I was standing at the site entrance one morning when I saw her. Danielle. My ex-wife. She looked out of place, heels sinking slightly into the gravel, a faint air of discomfort behind those designer sunglasses. It had been nearly 3 years since we'd spoken. Last I heard, she'd remarried a financial advisor in Denver. I kept walking, hoping she'd turn around. She didn't. "Logan," she called, stepping toward me. "Can we talk?" I stopped. "I'm working." "This won't take long," she said. "I read about what happened. The news. The raids. The charges. I wanted to say I'm sorry." I raised an eyebrow. "For what? Leaving? Or for siding with people who tried to bury me?" Her face tensed. "I didn't know how bad it was. I believed the things they said. That you were bitter, unstable. That I was broken," I finished. "Yeah, I know." She looked down. "I wasn't happy. You were always working. Always obsessed with the job." I nodded slowly. I was trying to keep people alive. Silence stretched between us. The wind blew dust between our shoes. "Greg left," she said finally. "He got caught embezzling from one of his clients. I lost everything. The condo, the accounts, all gone." There it was. I knew this moment would come eventually, the part where regret comes dressed as humility. But I wasn't the same man she left. "Danielle," I said, "I didn't spend 3 years crawling out of a hole just to climb back into yours." She blinked. "I'm not asking for anything." "Sure you are," I said. "You want to know that I forgive you. That I understand. Maybe even that I still care. I just wanted to see you." "Well," I said, stepping back toward the gate, "now you have." I turned and walked away. There was a time her tears would have gutted me. Now they just felt late. Because the truth is, betrayal doesn't always come with a knife. Sometimes it comes with silence. With walking away when the storm hits. With letting others write your story because it's easier than standing beside you in the dark. She left me in that storm. And now I was the thunder she couldn't outrun. 3 months later, I stood behind the glass wall of my office, watching our newest project rise into the sky. No missing railings. No falsified checklists. No rush orders stamped over red flags. Just clean lines, clean conscience. We just passed our 3rd surprise audit with 0 violations. No headlines. No applause. Just a message from the inspector: this is how it should be everywhere. That was enough. The final charges against Ironcrest had gone public the week before. Gregory Vaughn accepted a plea deal: 5 years prison, banned from holding any executive position in the construction sector for life. Derek Colburn didn't get that luxury. He went to trial. They found him guilty on all counts: falsifying safety documents, conspiracy to commit fraud, retaliating against whistleblowers, and obstructing a federal investigation. He's looking at 7 to 10. I didn't attend the sentencing. Didn't need to. I was sitting in a safety briefing that morning, watching a 19-year-old apprentice nervously ask his first question. No one laughed. No one brushed him off. His supervisor patted his shoulder and said, "Good catch." That's what winning looked like. Not headlines. Not revenge. Not even justice in the courtroom. Winning was making sure the kid went home at night with all his limbs and a sense of pride in his work. Still, I got one last surprise. An envelope showed up at my desk. No return address. Inside, a photo. Me, standing in front of the Ironcrest project 3 years ago, hard hat on, clipboard in hand. It was framed. On the back, someone had scribbled, "You were the only one who gave a damn." No signature. I didn't need one. Maybe it was Kevin. Maybe Marla. Maybe someone I never even knew I helped. Didn't matter. Because after everything, the betrayal, the lies, the smear campaign, I didn't just get my name back. I changed the blueprint. Not just for my company. For the entire damn industry. And as I looked out across the safe, humming site, every beam locked, every checklist signed, every worker accounted for, I knew something with absolute certainty. They tried to silence me. But I didn't just survive. I built something louder.